The Houston Texans have, once again, we've had an offseason where I think they've signed the most players.
And very few of them are actually good.
Yeah, that's very true. Your best.
Houston is living up to the Jeremy Greene philosophy of if you're going to be bad, bad.
I was going to say your best two offseason signings, in my opinion, probably have to be getting Malik Collins to come back and also retaining Kamu Grugier-Hill.
And let me just go ahead and tell you this. You gave my New York Jets a 6th-rounder for Blake Cashman. You're going to regret that. He's bad at the footballs. And he can't stay healthy to save his life. But you have a bunch of draft capital.
Yes, you do. And it's not like you couldn't afford to get rid of one of those 6th-round picks, because even in doing that, you still have a bunch of draft capital, including the number 3 overall pick. And, of course, you got the 13th pick as well in the Deshaun Watson deal. So an opportunity here to add talent to a team that is almost talentless. So at the number 3 overall pick in this post-free agency 7-round mock draft from the Sportsocracy, the number 3 overall pick, the Houston Texans take Aidan Hutchinson, edge rusher out of Michigan.
If this falls this way, I don't see how you don't do this. I'm not saying edge rusher is your biggest need, because it's certainly not. But I don't think you're going to take an offensive lineman. I think Evan Neal's going to fall a little bit anyway. I could see it being Ekwonu. That was the other one I seriously considered here. But I don't see how you pass up the best player in the draft, because this is my one. He is my number 1 at this point.
Yeah,
just fractionally ahead of Kyle Hamilton, who's also a possibility. I just don't think that's what they're going to do. Aidan Hutchinson's a fantastic player, and the only reason he's not the no-doubt one is because people are overreacting to the tape from Georgia. I got news for you. Every player on that team was absolutely just demolished by Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They're too deep. And, yeah, there are times that Aidan Hutchinson is not the greatest run defender you've ever seen, but they're few and far between. He's a great pass rusher. I've said routinely, I can't tell you he's going to be a grand slam. He has a possibility to be a home run. I think at worst he's a very solid stand-up double, in that I would say he's a top 15 to 20 edge guy in the league.
Mm-hmm.
That's his worst-case scenario.
And if he's that, he's worth the number 3 pick in the draft.
In this draft.
Yes.
And he's much safer than many other players. This is a no-doubt guy that you can pencil in as a face of the franchise kind of player for the next 10 years. And that's what Houston needs. You're in talent accumulation mode. Look around the AFC. I feel like most fans at this point are much more reasonable than they were a few years ago. At best, rosiest colored glasses you could possibly have, you're the 3rd worst team in the AFC. That put you ahead of the Jets and the Jaguars, and I'm going to level with you. I don't believe either of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So you're 2 years, you're a year away from being a year away. So just go get players. Aidan Hutchinson's a player.
The Houston Texans have the 13th overall pick, again from the Deshaun Watson deal. I know Houston Texans fans, you're glad that's all over. You may not be glad that Deshaun Watson's gone, but at least the cloud has moved on and you can move on. And number 13 overall, you got him taking Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State.
He's a very good route runner, very good deep threat. The two things that scare me are there are times he allows the ball to get into his body, and he's really thin. I mean, really thin. 6'1", $190 is thin for an outside receiver in the NFL. Because I think he could be susceptible to the jam. Well, here's how you fix that. Play him in the fucking slot.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of those things are going away, I think he can be an elite receiver in the NFL.
I've always seen him as being an elite slot receiver.
And in large part, I have too. It's just I think he's the security blanket for Davis Mills. They're going to give Davis Mills every opportunity to be the quarterback of the future, or at the very least be the stopgap until they find the guy that they want.
Right.
And Olave is, I've routinely said that the problem I have with him and Garrett Wilson is a lot of the biggest plays they had were when the play broke down. Well, you can look at that one of two ways. You can either look at it as that's a continuation kind of thing, and is that going to work in the NFL? Well, no, probably not. But you can also look at it as you never give up on a play. And these guys just find a way to get open. Elite speed at 4.4. That's another player that you can pin in as a starter for 10 years. I don't see any bust in Chris Olave.
At number 36 overall, down in the second round, Houston Texans could select out of their own state Baylor safety Jalen Petrie.
This is the strong safety. This is the best run defending safety in this class. There's some people think he can play corner. I'm not as wild about that. And I'm going to level. I'm not as wild about this player as a lot of others are. The problem is that he went to the combine and put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
And players that do that, they end up getting bumped up. I mean, I've seen him as high as the early 20s.
Yeah.
I don't see that. To me, he's a poor man's Dax Hill. And I love Dax Hill. And I'm not trying to say I don't like the player. I just think that he's gotten pushed up into too high of a place. He's a good, not great cover guy, almost exclusively in man. But I think he translates to a safety in the NFL. Good speed. Not an elite cover guy, but if you're going to play him at safety, I don't really care. He would be an elite cover safety. He's just not an elite cover corner. And he needs to get a little stronger. You bulk him if you can find a way to bulk him up to 6'2", 215, which you need to for the way he plays. If you can bulk him up to that without any sacrifice of speed, you're going to have a phenomenal player on your hands.
At number 68 overall in the third round, the first of 2 picks in the third round for the Texans, Kenneth Walker III, running back out of Michigan State.
I really like this kid. And look, you're going to do everything in your power to give Davis Mills the best opportunity to succeed. Rex Burkhead is a piece. He's not a starting running back in the league. He's just not.
Right.
And neither is Dare Agunlie or Royce Freeman or I keep doing this. You need the guy. Kenneth Walker is the guy. And that's going to help Davis Mills. He was faster than I thought he was. When he ran a 4.38, I was stunned by that. I thought he was in the higher 4.4s. Great between the tackles. A lot of people say he doesn't offer much in the pass game. It's more that you've never seen it. I'm not sure that he can't do it. It's just you don't see it very. And when I say that, I mean running dedicated routes. Could he catch a little flare? And absolutely. And once he's in space, he's as dangerous as anybody in this class.
Mm-hmm.
It was just most of it in that offense came between the guards, between the tackles, and obviously he does that well. I think he can be the best all-around running back in this class, and to catch him at the beginning of the third round would be a win for the Houston Texans.
At the 80th overall pick, Rasheed Walker, offensive tackle from Penn State.
This guy catches so much shit. Every one of these we've done where a team wound up with Rasheed Walker, they bitched about him. And it didn't matter where he was.
Really?
Every single time. And it's because he's not elite at anything. He's the last of these tackles. He's obviously behind Penning. He's obviously behind the Max Mitchells and guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between the two, the reason I have Rasheed Walker ahead of Max Mitchell Mitchell's right tackle. I think Rasheed Walker can play on the left side because I think there's still, in spite of the fact he played as much in college as he did, the Big Ten's a weird projection because it's so old school football, and Penn State was old school football.
Mm-hmm.
He's a better run blocker than he is pass blocker. There was some bad tape. Yeah, I've seen the Ohio State. I got it. Okay? It's been said to me a lot of times. And last year was not particularly good. If this had been 2 years ago, he'd have been a first-round pick. He was a first-round pick coming into this year.
Yeah.
And 2021 was just – it was not good.
It was that bad.
It was not good.
Okay.
And there was a weird combine thing where he was sick and didn't really tell anybody, and he just wasn't there.
Huh.
That's also weird. That's why he gets pushed here. I had him as a second-round pick. This would be a good value. And could be the replacement to Laramie Tunsil if you find somebody to take that deal.
Yep. 2 picks in the fourth round for the Houston Texans. The first at 107, and you got one at 108. But the 107th overall pick, Haskell Garrett, defensive tackle at Ohio State.
He's a little squatty, not a gigantic defensive tackle, and he has short arms. But other than that, he's very strong. He's a very good tackler, and pretty nimble for what he is. We actually originally mocked him to the Browns, and then we realized after the NFL put out the official press release that pick was included in the Deshaun Watson deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got to this point, we went, well, he actually would fit in Houston too. He's the best player on the board, so that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. At 108 overall, John Mechie III, wide receiver out of Alabama.
The injuries pushed him down, and he had more of a name to the average fan than he ever did to the scouts, because he never became the guy he was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be the next Alabama receiver, and that just never materialized. He's thin, but he's real fast. And I think there's more left in him. I don't say that often about Alabama guys. I think there's more left in him.
I agree.
He was just never the guy. First it was Judy, then it was Jameson, or then it was Jalen Waddle, then it was Jameson Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He was never the guy.
And Devontae Smith, who won a Heisman.
Devontae Smith, I knew I was forgetting one. He's just a little slight. I think I think he could actually play outside in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Olave can play outside as well. They're just kind of interchangeable pieces. I think they're both better in the slot in the beginning. But they're both security blanket players. This is just, like I said, talent accumulation. This would be a player that could play early because he's not going to be a liability. He's just – there was a thought he was going to be a first-round pick, early second at worst coming into the season, and he just never developed into that guy. And now he's coming off the injury, so that pushes him down.
Yeah, I like him a lot, and I still feel like that kind of ceiling is still capable for John Mechie III. In the 6th round, 183rd overall, so this is the backup to the quarterback, to Davis Mills. Brock Purdy, quarterback out of Iowa State.
And this is a little bit of projection because I'm going to level with it. There are a lot of people that like Brock Purdy better than I do. The decision-making bothers me. And the fact that he was fluffed up by having Charlie Kohler and having Breece Hall, there were a lot of really bad throws. There are people that believe if there is a starting high-end level quarterback in this draft, it's Brock Purdy. I'm not one of those. The height bothers me because he is short. And there are a lot of things that bother me, but nothing's like, oh, I would take him completely off the board. He needs to refine his throwing motion. He needs reps. He needs all of those things. He needs time.
It's a massive project.
He is a massive project. But he's very athletic.
Of all of the Ohio State games I watched, and I wasn't out there watching Big 12 football all the time, but in the games that I did watch, I went, this is a guy, he's a pretty good college quarterback, but he's never good. Yeah, but he's never going to be anything in the NFL.
And I see a potential to be a good long-term backup in the NFL. And look, if you're going to give Davis Mills a shot, this kid's really bright too. If you're going to give Davis Mills a shot, it helps to have somebody in the room that can grow with him. Now, do you want a vet? Absolutely, because you don't want Brock Purdy putting on a uniform this year.
Mm-hmm.
This is a projection. This is a grow with you, low pressure. I mean, you're taking him at such a point that there's – all right, if he doesn't make the roster, which he would, by the way.
Right.
And he's cheap. That's the good thing about Houston. You have all these picks. You can pad this roster with cheap players. There's no risk. All right, let's say that 2% of evaluators that love Brock Purdy are right and he ends up being your starter. Then you look like a fucking genius.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're wrong, okay, it was the
183rd pick.
183rd pick. You picked him in the beginning of the 6th round.
Mm-hmm. At 206 overall, this is a guy that I know you like.
I do.
Cade Otten, tight end out of Washington.
I really think he was held back by the fact that he was on a team that had very lofty aspirations, and it crashed into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
He's also not the greatest athlete, but he's a good blocker. And there are a lot of tight ends in this class that can't block to save their lives. Cade Otten can. I see a lot of – he lined up everywhere. That is a big tell to me on tight ends, and you can vouch for this that I've been historically very good at tight end things.
We call him the tight end whisperer around here, by the way.
And there's a reason for that. One of the things I like seeing is tight ends that can do everything. He lined up out wide at Washington. So is he a freak athlete? No, he ran a 4.78. But he's 6'5", 250. He could stand to add a little bit of weight, get a little stronger. And I think if he does that, he's going to become a very good blocker. Because he's a good blocker now, even as thin as he is. And fundamentally, very sound. The technique is great. He's just not strong enough. And I think that could – I think with a little work, he's a super value day 3 guy.
Is this a possibility that they're going to play maybe 2 tight end sets and have him and Brevin Jordan match those 2 up?
They just do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they would be complementary.
Right.
This team's going to need to run the ball. And, Brevin Jordan's not exactly a great blocker.
No.
I like Brevin Jordan, don't get me wrong. I liked him last year, and I couldn't believe he fell as far as he did. But I think they can complement each other.
At 208 overall, 2 picks later, Houston Texans, you got them taking Nephi Sewell, linebacker out of Utah. From that family.
Yeah, he's Panay's brother.
Uh-huh.
If he was 2 inches taller, and I could cut off the bottom 15% of his tape, he would be a day 2 guy. He's a leader on the field, very smart, very instinctive, just some inconsistent effort. There was some times that you would see him, and it was almost like he looked at Devin Lloyd and just went, "You do it. You do it. I'm tired. You do it." and Devin Lloyd would take over these games, but there were a lot of burst plays from Sewell, where you see the pop, you see him lay the hammer. I just didn't see it often enough. The other thing that bothers me a little bit is the size. I don't know that tight ends aren't going to really I think he'll struggle defending tight ends in the NFL, but he has a role, and it could be special teams captain. That wouldn't shock me in the least. Not as fast and athletic at his size as you would want him to be, but he's one of those Josie. Next year I'm going to do a Josie Jewell team because I think I've said his name 16 times doing these team drafts.
Yeah, I believe you have.
He would be a Josie Jewell All-American. You look at him in the hotel lobby and go, "You're not a football player." Then you watch him and go, "Oh, you are."
I think you could also call it the Hunter Renfrow list.
That would also be applicable, yes.
7th round, 246th overall, the final pick of the draft for the Houston Texans, Myron Tagovailoa Amosa, defensive tackle from Notre Dame.
This is a projection. He is the first cousin, I believe, of Tua and Talia Tagovailoa.
It's his mom's side of the family.
Yeah,
is the Tagovailoas.
If he was bigger, which I think he's going to have to be in the NFL anyway, he's a defensive tackle that's under 270 pounds. There are some disagreements on what he actually weighs, not propping it up for scales and shit like that, because he is small. And he's not as twitchy as you would like him to be, but I think you can bulk him up because he's very instinctive. There's a lot of good tape from Notre Dame. The only problem is that he's a small interior lineman that at times played like he had a 2x4 in his ass. So you look at that and go, okay, so we're going to add 30 pounds to him and he's going to get looser? I don't look for that.
Yeah.
Project player, you're going to have to run him through the conditioning program, really bulk him up, make sure you do it the right way. But even with the limitations, there's just an intangible about him that I've liked this entire process. Mm-hmm. He's one of those late round flyer guys that I have yet to have a draft where he didn't get drafted.
He's a smart kid and well respected inside his own locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Senior leader for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Myron Tagovailoa Amosa, 246th overall to the Houston Texans. This has been the Houston Texans post-free agency 7-round mock draft here in the Sportsocracy. It won't be the last one. We still got 2 more of these to do before draft day. 2 more left
before the April 28th, 2022 NFL Draft in Las Vegas. If you like these picks, if you don't like these picks, if you think I am a big mulleted ginger dipshit, feel free to throw your mock draft in the comments. I'll grade those. I'll answer any questions you have. If there's a player you want to know how they fit with the Houston Texans, put those in the comments, and I will happily answer those. I have been pleasantly surprised at some of the mock drafts that have been sent in to us. Fans never cease to amaze me. And, you are loyal constituency. You are smarter than the average NFL bear.
And if you're not a part of the constituency yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Get all of our team-by-team content throughout the Draftmas season. And join us live every weekday here in the Ingalls studio at 3 o'clock right here on YouTube. I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene.
Yeah.
We are the Sportsocracy, and we will see you next time.